Hey, Raising Athletes podcast fans, Kirsten here, and I have to share my new favorite hydration secret with you. Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. If you're looking for the ultimate hydration boost, this is it. Corvive's Hydrate is an NSF certified for sport, trusted by 4 Major League Baseball teams and 3 military bases. With 6 grams of pure organic cane sugar, it ensures you absorb all the electrolytes you need. And get this, it has 3 times the electrolytes and 4 times less sugar than those leading brands. Plus, it's developed using the World Health Organization's standards for oral rehydration solutions, making it the equivalent of a bag of IV fluids. Best of all, there are no artificial dyes or sweeteners. It's so perfect for the entire family. You can drink it any time of day, before, during, or after workouts or sports. So say goodbye to sugary juices and hello to superior hydration with Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. Visit corvive.com. That's CORVIVE.com. And use promo code Kirsten. That's KIRSTEN for 30% off your order. Try it today and feel the difference.
Hello and welcome to the Raising Athletes podcast. My name is Kirsten Jones. I'm a peak performance and sports parenting coach and the proud author, co-host of Raising Athletes podcast and the author of Raising Empowered Athletes, which came out about a year ago. Susie and I love talking to authors, athletes, coaches, anybody who will talk to us about sports. Today, I have a very, very, very special guest. In fact, one of my 4 favorite people in the whole wide world has decided to make his presence known with us today. And we've been doing segments we like to call the Athletes Edition, and hearing from the student athletes in their own journey. And if you've been following along, perhaps you heard my oldest son, Kalen, or CJ Jones, do a podcast with us about 6 months ago with me. And now Parker Jones, my number 2 son, second son, not number 2.
Oh, wow. My second favorite son.
That's not a great start, is it?
Yeah.
No, we've been waiting for the right moment. We were going to try to do this together. He was home for a lot of the summer, but now he's at Colgate. And for those of you who don't know, Colgate University is a Division I school about an hour east of Syracuse, New York. Parker is playing basketball. And has been chasing this dream to play college basketball for, as of next week, 21 years, I think. So welcome, Parker Pie.
Woo! It's great to be here. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be the second favorite son.
Don't. Never going to live that down.
Don't.
All right. So I think parents love to hear, and we want to hear about the journey. And it's always nice to see, oh, look, they won the race, they got the ribbon. But as we know, there is no straight line in life. So let's take it way back. You were born in Portland, Oregon when Dad and I were both working for Nike. So what are your first memories, if we can go that far back? Do you remember living in Portland?
I think bits and pieces for sure. Yeah. There's a bunch of random memories that I have. I think a couple of them, like I remember like teaching Kylie how to say like castle under the stairs. I don't know, just like random stuff. And then I remember there was one time where I was I couldn't sleep or something. I was in trouble, and Dad had like put me over his shoulder, and I don't know why I remember this, but he's got me barreled over his shoulder, and I'm looking at his bare back, and something in my 3-year-old brain just said bite, and I just bit his back, which I don't know if that's relevant.
I remember that. No, I remember that actually.
But that's like one of the few memories I have.
And
then the night vision goggles me and CJ got. I remember the night vision goggles, like that was like the big deal. Yeah.
Do you remember learning how to ride your bike without training wheels around the block?
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I do remember that. I remember, so I had just learned how to do it, and I like went off on my own, I think, or something, and I was going around the corner, and I'm biking, and then end up like slowing down, and I tip over and I land in this like pile of like rose bushes and thorns, and I'm just like standing there, and I was like so shocked at the time. I remember I was just kind of sitting there like in pain, crying, but not able to move. And like I think it was our neighbor or something, like
Yeah.
came over, found me, like picked me up. And I remember coming back, and it's kind of funny enough because that was what my college essay was about, was like that moment. I was wondering what you were getting at with that question, and now I understand. Like, you could not care less about me biting my dad's bike, but
No,
biting
but
my dad's bike, but yeah,
I think it is funny what memories come for us, and like what shows up for us when we think of a specific point in our life. But the rose bush story I know was kind of prominent because you were very proud. Maybe you were 5. I mean, I don't need 4.
I can't remember how old I was. I
Yeah.
like 3 to 5.
I do remember that neighbor though had come over later and said, or maybe it was that time, and he said, "Do you have a son named Paco?" And I said, "I'm sorry." He goes, "Well, I was just helping your son Paco." And I was like, "Oh, Parker."
Yeah.
And your little mispronunciation, you would say, "My name is Paco."
My name is Paco. Pick me up. Pick you up.
Pick you up. Yeah, little Parker Pie, as we like to call you back then. But so let's fast forward. We leave Nike in 2008. We moved to Carlsbad, California. I think that's when you started playing organized sports. Do you remember?
I remember playing soccer. I remember playing like NJB, with like playing up with CJ. I think it was like, it wasn't kindergarten, but it had to be like first grade.
No, you started in kindergarten. There was a team of third and fourth graders, and they needed somebody for the summer league. And Mr. Hauser, I said, "Well, he's only in kindergarten." And he said, "That's okay. He's better than most of the third and fourth graders."
Yeah.
And he had you on the team. And actually, I saw them 6 months ago or so, and he told the story, and he said, "Oh, no, that's when the Jones rule got implemented." And I said, "Excuse me, the Jones rule?" He said, "Oh, yeah. Then there was a rule. You couldn't have 2 brothers on the team, even if there was a 3-year age difference, because it was considered stacking the team."
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember it was me and CJ and a couple other people. But yeah, I remember that. That was crazy. That was fun. That was a lot of fun though, because I mean, I think that was kind of one of the themes throughout me being younger, and really helped me with basketball, was like I always played up. Like I would always play. Like having that older brother, having CJ, was so nice because I was able to play with like higher competition, and I don't know, I kind of enjoyed that like underdog, because like you have nothing to lose when you're in that experience. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you just go out and play and like have fun. And even if you mess up, like it really didn't matter because you're 3 years younger. Like no one really cares.
But do you remember like being intimidated by the third and fourth graders because, they were bigger and I mean, more skilled than you in some ways?
I think I was like so naive at the time, where I was just more excited to play with my brother and like have my dad as the coach, where I was like, it was more exciting. And I knew like, I don't know. It's funny you say that, because I like me looking at myself now, I would have assumed like I would have been so intimidated by that. Cause like, I mean, I think about like, if I were to go play with like some professional players, I would definitely be intimidated by that. Obviously it's a different jump, but it's kind of like the same idea of like playing up. And I don't think I was ever really scared though. Like thinking back at it, like I was really always just kind of, I don't know, like excited, because it was kind of like it was what I always did, even when we moved to New York too. And I don't know, I was more comfortable with it. I think also because I had like that older brother and the people around me that supported me. So I never really felt intimidated. It was kind of just more exciting.
It's great.
And, like I wanted to like prove, like I kind of wanted to prove myself a little bit. Like you give yourself a little bit of like a chip on the shoulder. So yeah.
The next year you were a first grader, so you were much bigger, and the third grade team still wanted, said, "We'll take him." And so I remember you played on the all-star team that went to Hanford.
Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
And played in the NJB national championships, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any memories of that experience?
I mean, I one thing I can remember is the smell. I mean, it just smelled terrible the whole time. I remember that, but
It is cattle country north of Bakersfield is where we're talking about, right?
yeah, it's just a terrible smell, fumigating the whole area. But I I kind of it's funny because looking back at it, you realize how small things are. But at the time, like going, it was Hanford, right? Hanford. I think it
Yeah.
was like, uh, I thought it was like a big deal because CJ had done it, and it was like the big tournament or whatever. And now looking back at it, I don't think of it as that crazy. But all I really remember, I don't really remember anything about the games. I just remember who was on our team, and I remember we had like a really tall kid and some of that
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know. I can't. It
Yeah.
was such a
Well,
long
you
time
were
ago.
6, so it's fine.
Yeah,
But you did start playing soccer then. Do you
yeah.
remember? I mean, I remember taking you to a kick and chase game where the goals were only 25 feet apart, and
I remember those
you'd
games.
you'd come home with 6 or 7 goals.
Yeah, those were the days. Those days were fun. Soccer was really fun at that time because you could get it anywhere and just score. I felt like Cristiano Ronaldo or something. But I remember, yeah, I like naturally picked up soccer pretty well, and I honestly think that also really helped with my basketball, just kind of sense. And I think that playing two sports is so important for kids. But yeah, no, I do remember those days. Those days were so much fun. And I kind of remember the field. I remember in San Diego playing a whole lot. Yeah.
And then we went to Cabo for Easter break, and with the Reynolds and a couple other families. And I remember the Easter Bunny brought you a replica jersey. Do you remember what soccer player that
Oh
was?
yeah. Wasn't it Chicharito?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember him. Yeah. No, that's funny you say that because I literally was like, for some reason, I was looking up Chicharito like a month ago. I don't even know why. But yeah, no, that jersey, he was like my favorite player or something. I don't even
Yeah.
know. He was like my favorite player. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't even think I really watched him. I just think I liked the name Chicharito. Like I just
Yeah.
the name was cool, so I was like, that's my favorite player. But yeah, no, I do remember that jersey. Yeah,
So we were in San Diego from when you were uh, 3, 4 until you were going into third grade. So you were 9 when we moved to Buffalo, New York. And Dad got a new job working for New Era, so we moved to western upstate New York. And we go to the school the first day before the school's open, just so we could see it. And we ran into your teacher in the hallway, who was going to be your teacher, Mrs. Uh,
this is at
oh,
Buffalo,
no. Yeah,
Cunningham.
no, Cunningham was your first grade teacher. Oh, anyway, I just was thinking of her the other day. Anyway, you had an amazing teacher. But do you remember your first experience coming home from school in Buffalo?
First experience coming home from school in Buffalo.
Like what your impressions were?
I think like one of the main things was we didn't have recess, and that was like just killed me because I remember like being in San Diego, like looking forward to go playing basketball or handball or like being active, and then you get to Buffalo and it's like you have like nutrition or like you have like some random like recess, but it's not recess. You're just sitting and eating food, and I remember that was like so frustrating for me because I really enjoyed just going and playing sports, and that's how I made a lot of my friends. Like all my friends from back home, like Christian and Bradley and all them, met them, we became friends because of basketball and because of sports.
I believe in
Was,
Carlsbad, you had a morning break for like 20 minutes, then you had lunch, and then you had an afternoon recess. So you had basically 3 times you could be outside, and you would
yeah,
always come home starving. And I'd be like, well, why didn't you eat your lunch? Well, I didn't have time. I was busy, right? So you would just, or maybe you'd take 2 bites of the sandwich so that, you could go call dibs on the court, right?
literally
And
what
I
happened.
remember
Yeah,
the first day you got off the bus, which there were buses in Buffalo, in tears. And I'm like, what is wrong? And you're like, they don't have recess. And they didn't have basketball hoops outside.
yeah,
So
no.
you were just like, but that's my favorite subject.
Yeah. I literally remember that in San Diego. I would literally get my food, and whoever I was near, like sometimes for some reason the schedule wouldn't line up. So like the rule was just whoever can get to the court first, get the court because there's only a limited amount of balls. You got to get there first, get a ball. That way you had a court, and that way you could like pick dibs on teams. So I literally would just like I don't even think I would eat most of the days.
I don't think so either.
Like I would literally just like have a couple bites of whatever terrible cafeteria food there was, and then just run out and try and get a court. That's funny. Yeah, I remember that. And yeah, I remember when we like first drove by the school, and we like drove by the elementary school, and I was like looking by, and we were driving by, and I was like, there's no basketball court. Like just like the dread. I was like, what are we gonna do? I'm not gonna just go on the slide.
Well, and then I remember the dichotomy, because when we drove around the neighborhood we eventually lived in, all the hoops were like in-ground hoops, and I was like, gosh, these are so fancy. It's amazing they have in-ground hoops. Well, we were there for about 3 months when the 50-mile-an-hour winds came sweeping down the lane, and you realize, aha, you need the in-ground hoops, or your hoop, which we brought with us from San Diego, like blew away.
I think the rim like ended up becoming like vertical or something. Like it was just like, yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
So we get to Buffalo, you're 9, we're there from 9 to 12, and you're playing both basketball and soccer.
Yeah.
Half the time soccer you're raining sideways. There were many a game I sat in the minivan. I can see them, I think, from here. I can see make Parker out. And you would be diving into I remember one game where the middle of the field was an entire puddle. And you guys just spent your whole time diving through like you just drenched, but you had so much fun, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was really like some amazing times. That whole team was great. Yeah, I remember that exact game. We won, and like it was like raining, and you just go and you just jump your whole body into like the mud and everything. That was so much fun. Yeah, playing soccer, like, I mean, I'm also like so appreciative of it, because I think when I was younger, I really did love playing soccer, and it was like I honestly thought for a while like soccer was going to be my thing over than basketball, just because I was like kind of a little more naturally gifted with soccer. Like I never really practiced soccer. I was just kind of good at it, and like had so much fun playing. And like anytime I saw like the World Cup or saw like a soccer game on, I just would want to go play. And we can talk about like later how I felt about soccer, but I totally agree. Those days were just so much fun, where you're just, totally nice to just reminisce, because I haven't thought about that in a while, but just, great memories, only good memories.
Well, and I would be remiss, your dad would definitely bring up, if he was sitting here, that I was the one that caused both you and CJ to not play baseball. Do you remember playing T-ball in Carlsbad?
I do. I know I played T-ball. I don't know if I have any memories of me actually playing. Actually, that's not true. I have like one memory of this one game, but I don't have any like super specifics. We literally didn't even have someone pitch it. It was literally just on the tee, and you would crank it. I don't know. I'm not too mad that you didn't make me play baseball. I'm not gonna lie. It's not.
You're welcome.
I'm not beating myself up about it.
Yeah. I just remember.
I think volleyball is a different discussion, though.
Okay, so let's go there. So I think your sports experience in Buffalo was awesome, right? Because they had it was a great environment. You played rec, and then there was no such thing as club, or we didn't participate in that. So Dad coached you, I coached you a little bit, or I would sub in and coach a bit. And there were these great rules where everybody got equal playing time, except for the last, 3 or 4 minutes. Then you could play your best players. Do you have good memories from NJB?
NJB or AYSO? Is it? Are we talking Buffalo?
Buffalo.
Wait, no,
AYSO.
Buffalo was Buffalo AYSO, or it was like I don't even remember. But it was
AYSO soccer. It was.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, the NJB. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, but I do remember like they had like a draft, and they would go like based on, I forget how it was, but like I think it was Brendan Morris's dad one year was just like just do terrible, just like don't show you're good, don't make any shots, just miss everything. We can pick you up. I can get Brendan. Like it was like I remember we had like a whole game plan. But I remember a lot of that, and that was a lot of fun too, because I think I was playing with the unit as well at the time, which was like the AAU team.
Oh, yeah.
I was definitely playing with them, yeah, for sure. So that was a lot more competitive, which was also fun. But I think having that also just the rec side was way more fun too, because I mean, I think you had to have like a foot in the paint. Like you had, like, it was like you could literally, I mean, you could just walk up and shoot a jump shot. Like it was very friendly. But yeah, no, some great memories as far as just like getting to have fun. I think I remember like one game we played on like the big court, because I remember there was like a smaller gym and then there was like two bigger courts, which is where like the bigger kids play. And I think like one game we had it there, and I remember like hitting one shot. This is like one of the only shots I remember, but I was like in the corner, like literally like behind the basket, and like shot it and like faded it, and it like went over the side of the backboard and went in. That's like one of the only shots I really remember. But I just remember. Oh, I also remember we went to a tournament though.
In Michigan.
Yeah, and we just got smacked. It was like me, Brendan, and like a couple other guys, and like I don't think Mr. Morse took me out of the game. Like I was in the game the whole time, but we were not winning for sure. I think we lost a couple games by 20 or 30, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
But we should also say, so now you're 6'6". Is that fair to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
A little over 6'6".
We can say 6'6", yeah.
Okay, and shoes 6'7". But back then you were not a big kid. Like you weren't dominating in height. It wasn't like, ooh, pick him. It really was, you were kind of, the same as everybody else at that age, right? Like nobody.
Yeah, I wasn't anything of a physical dominance, I would say, for sure. Which I also am pretty thankful for, because it made me teach. Like I had to learn like how to use the other skills, like get good at shooting, and I was a little bit better at ball handling. Now I've gotten taller, it's a little bit harder for me, but I'm getting better again, like trying to work at it. But I think like learning the skills of playing like a guard were like so important. And now that I'm a little bit bigger, and now I'm trying to like, I think it's a lot easier to try and learn like a forward position like I'm learning right now, rather than being a big kid who like was always tall and then trying to learn guard skills.
Yes.
So really, really appreciative of that fact. And definitely helped me out for sure with like just the whole process of, I think it helped a lot that I was a late bloomer for sure.
Yeah. And I want to say that because I do, and parents that are listening, we hear that a lot. Well, my kid's small and they didn't develop. Well, you were 5'8", maybe 5'9", going into freshman year, right? So it wasn't like he was 6'3", 6'4", and able to dominate. But let's now fast forward to Los Angeles. So we moved to LA in 2015. You're in sixth grade, so you're 12 years old. Let's talk about what happens with both basketball and soccer. Like start with basketball. Do you remember who picked you up?
I remember first we played Mar Vista. We played with Mar Vista, right, with Josh Diaz and his dad, and then Cole. I think Lenny was his name. That was an awesome experience. We played. It was like one of the first guys I met. Josh was like in my class, and he played basketball, kind of like a shorter kid, and like a little stubbier too. But he was like really good at passing, and he couldn't really move that fast, but he did everything else amazing. And we had I was a really fun time playing with them too, because I remember playing with the unit, and like our team was like really good, and I was kind of just like the white kid that would sit in the corner, and like if the ball came to me, I'd shoot it. Whereas at Mar Vista, it was a little more, I could like do more and like play a lot more. And we actually had another kid named Darius, who actually is like a D1 athlete as well. He plays basketball. I forget, he had a couple of big time offers. But it's kind of funny too, looking back at like how people progress. And at the time, you don't really realize how good everyone is like on the level. But yeah, so I played with them for like a year and some change, I'd say. And then Nick Johansson, who I went to school with as well at Paul Revere, started kind of like getting in my ear about coming play in SEA, which was like the team with Cecil, and a lot of my other friends were playing it at the time too. And then I forget exactly how, I can't remember if I took a break from basketball and I was focused on soccer, but I ended up switching to SEA and playing with Nick and a lot of my buddies over there.
Do you remember who you played? One of the first games that you played?
Well, like the first game, it was funny because we showed up late. I think I was like 5 minutes late or something. Just walking in, I think Cole Bailey's dad, who was like on the team I used to be on, was walking in and was like, "Hey, Parker," and I was like, "Oh, what's up?" And then I came in and I was like, "Oh, I'm on a new team, but I'm playing Mar Vista. We're down 17 points." Oh, okay. All right. So I remember coming in, but then I had like the game of my life. I I played phenomenal. I think I had like 30 points or something. I can't remember if we won or lost that game, but that was a pretty funny memory where Cole's dad told me after he was like super happy to see me, and then at the end of the game he was nothing but pissed to see me because he didn't realize I had switched teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then had some great years with Cecil, and honestly, I think it was just a great choice too. And I just had dinner with him and a couple of the guys like last month, and all those guys are great and amazing people, and I remember a lot about those years for sure. A lot more memories. Playing with Connor and Charlie, meeting like all of my friends right now too, who I played sports with. So yeah, there's a lot of great things to reflect on when I think about SCA too, because I don't know, it was just all great memories. And it was kind of serious, but also at the same time, it was like middle school. And I remember like the big thing was always like, we'd go to school, we'd go have a game, and then the next day, like I think games were on Sunday, and then on Monday it was all we're talking about is just how we played, how good we played, like this one move, like, oh, Zach made that pass, oh, remember when Owen shot that 3, and whatever, like, so those.
And
that
you
was
were
a lot of
you
fun.
were a point guard on that team.
Yeah, I was, yeah.
You were kind of a set shooter. Right?
I think I was probably the second shortest. I think Zach was only shorter than me. I was more like the point guard on the team where I'd bring the ball up, and yeah, kind of just I would really just shoot, pass, and dribble, and like my floater was actually pretty nice back in the day. Sometimes I can pull it out.
But we couldn't get you to go anywhere near the paint. I remember you being deathly afraid. No. Those guys are too big. I'm not going in there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I also didn't really work on my finishing because all I would do is kind of shoot and dribble and pass and try and create for others. And I honestly think that soccer also played a part in that too. Sorry, is there like a glare?
It's okay. It's fine. Actually, I like it. Leave it.
Okay.
It's fine.
Glares.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay. You look very not natural. It's good. That's all good.
All right.
But to that point about soccer, let's shift to that. And spoiler alert. Yeah. You stopped playing soccer when you were 13. So if you'd be willing, and I get this a lot with clients where, hey, my kid loves this sport, and then something happens. So yeah. Would you talk about what happened when you got to LA with soccer?
Yeah, well, when I got to LA, like I was in 6th grade, we played like AYSO, so like the rec. And I remember just having a lot of fun in that, like dominating as usual, like playing like midfield and having a great time, and really like loving the sport. And then I started playing, like we joined like the all-star team. I met a couple of my other friends from there too. And then we joined FC England, which was like, it's like rec, and then it was like the all-star, and then it was like an actual club, and actually met a lot of my good friends now too from there. But I remember it started to get like really serious, and our coaches were pretty intense for sure. And I never had felt like I would like question myself in soccer. Like I always would play, and like I felt like I always made like the right play and like could make good reads and like just naturally like see how people move. And I was always kind of more of an attacker or like a midfielder. So I was kind of scoring goals, and I think scoring a goal in soccer was like one of my favorite things. And then as I started to play, like my minutes I didn't get as many minutes. Like I wasn't really playing as much. And then they moved me back from like midfielder back to like defense because guys were a little more skilled than me. And then I was like coming off the bench playing defense. And then I like I don't really remember exactly when, but there was like kind of a switch from, oh, this is fun to, oh, I'm not enjoying this and I'm scared whenever the ball is coming to me. Like I remember that was one thing, was like I got really nervous whenever the ball was coming my way because it wasn't like, it was because I didn't want to like make a mistake and I didn't want to get yelled at. And I think it turned the love that I had for the sport into kind of just like this fear. But I was with a lot of the people that I liked and my friends, and I didn't feel like I could leave also a little bit. And I also didn't really want to quit. It was kind of this weird thing where I was just like in this, soccer just wasn't fun anymore. Like I never really like wanted to go to practice or like didn't really enjoy it because I wasn't doing what I loved within the sport, which was like attacking and creating and scoring and passing and like leading to assists. I was kind of just sitting in the back watching it all happen. And I think that like shift kind of made me, and then one of the things that I will say is I never really felt that with basketball. Like I've never really felt like scared to get the ball or not not able to do what I want to do in the sport. I think this year was like the first year where I got like nervous, and that's, I mean, college basketball is a whole another thing we can talk about. But as far as just at that time, I never really felt nervous with playing basketball. If anything, I was like excited when there was competition, or like the fact that someone else, like a team, like might beat us. Like, okay, then I'm gonna bring my A game. Like, I never really felt that with soccer. When I got to a certain point, it just kind of felt scared. And I think having basketball was such a great tool for me, because I was able to compare soccer and basketball and realize, okay, hey, this one, soccer, I'm not enjoying. I'm scared whenever the ball comes to me. I like just nervous all around. And basketball, I just never felt that. You know what I mean? So,
do you remember when I did the remembering the future exercise with you?
I think I do. Or was this recent, or was this like when I was younger?
No, I mean, I've done it recently with you too, but when you were young and you were still playing both, and in the morning you had a soccer game down in Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
and in the afternoon you had a basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad took you down to Orange County, and he's texting me and he's saying, he's running funny. He doesn't look like he wants to be out there. He looks really scared. He said, this isn't Parker. Like, this isn't the Parker we know. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh my gosh, well, I had done this exercise with him. Maybe it, it didn't work. And then 5 hours later, you come walking in the door, high-fiving, laughing. And I'm like, what happened? And you said, Mom, in the car from Orange County to my basketball game, Dad just put on music, and I sat there and I did the exercise of what you talked about, which was the hoop is 20 feet wide. Mm-hmm. Smell the shoes, smell your new fresh Nike shoes coming out of the box. You walk into that gym, everybody's high-fiving you. You can do nothing wrong. You are in a flow state. The game is easy mm-hmm. and fun. Mm-hmm. And you said, that's exactly how I played. And I had 30 points or whatever, like I played out of my mind. Same kid, same day.
Yeah.
But one place I felt very insecure and afraid and fearful. And the other place, Cecil had my back. I was going for it. Mm-hmm. And I knew I was supported, and look what I can do.
Yeah. It's funny because that makes it makes a lot of sense now too, looking back at it. And I think one thing that's huge also, just like, I've been thinking about this a lot more too, is like when I was in that space of soccer, I was kind of getting told, like, they were like British guys, so they're a lot harsher, I'd say. And it was never like, there was never like a, oh, you're good enough, or like, oh, like you're great, like you can do really well. It was kind of just more of like I don't want to mess up. Whereas when I was playing basketball, like, I felt like I was the best player on the team, and I had guys telling me that I was. So it's kind of like this self-fulfilling prophecy of like people telling you that you're good enough, and then you start to believe it, and then like you start to like actually like act on it. And so I think that those things, like, combined with what you were saying too, I think also the environment that I was in was conducive to me like succeeding in basketball, because I had this great system around me and these great people. And I totally agree too, because I mean, I even do it now where I think about like when I'm going to go to practice right now, like how am I going to play? What am I going to focus on? And it kind of shifts too, I think, with what you're like trying to do. Like last year, I was more like playing a role on the team. So I was really like, for the first time, not really thinking about how my shot felt, but I mean, I obviously was, but also thinking about like, okay, like, how can I make this hustle play? How can I get a rebound? How can I create an extra possession for the team? And like kind of more judging my success off of that rather than my success off of scoring and all these other things. But yeah, I totally agree. Like it's funny because I really don't remember that day, but I know like it sounds exactly correct.
Well, I remember it because I was trying to help a friend's son, and Jonah. And we went over to their house, and he had a trampoline, and you guys bounced around on the trampoline for a while. And I said, Parker, would you humor me and just do this drill for Jonah and this exercise? And so you both did it together. But of course, secretly, I was hoping that it would help you as well. Right.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, when you had that moment, And not to go deep.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and then not to go deep into what went wrong, but again, we all have to pivot at some point. I mean, who knows? Maybe you would have played both. Well, actually, the seasons are the same. So once you got to high school, you would have had to make a decision anyway. But there was a moment we drove down to, I think it was Escondido for a tournament. It was the last tournament you ever played in. And I have a vivid memory of you in the fetal position in the front of the minivan in tears saying, please don't make me get out of the car.
Yeah, I do remember that too.
And I felt like a horrible parent. I'm like, why am I making my kid go do something that he clearly is in fear? And it was the longest day. I mean, and then do you remember what happened at the end of the tournament?
I don't really remember. I when it got to the end, I don't even know. I was just so over being there in general, where I kind of have like blocked it out of my memory almost a little bit.
You didn't play all day, and then finally the last 2 minutes, the team's down 7-1, and the last minute or two, maybe, he subbed you in.
Yeah.
And that was almost more humiliating than had he just not played you, because clearly he didn't really think you could do anything in 1 minute. So that was when he said to everybody, just so you know, you all suck, and most of you won't be coming back.
Yeah,
and
I remember that. Yeah.
In my mind, I said, that's great, because we reached the same conclusion at the same time.
Yeah, that was the exact thing. I remember him saying like, or one of them was talking about how like we're terrible, we're not worth anything,
trash,
and then like there's gonna be some cuts, and I remember him like looking at me, and I was kind of just like, yeah, all right. I kind of just accepted it, and I was like, I didn't really want to quit, but at the same time, I like didn't want to keep going. And so this was like, I knew he was going to like let me go from the team. And so it was no hard feelings, but I don't know. It's just a lot of that situation just kind of rubs me the wrong way, just looking back at it. Cause I loved soccer. Like just thinking about like everything, like when I'm younger, like all I can think about is like, I don't know, me smiling and me enjoying myself. And I feel like soccer is such a creative sport. Same thing with basketball, where you're able to kind of just express yourself in a different way. And it really does suck that this happens to a lot of kids, like everywhere, where they have a bad coach or a bad team or someone telling them that they're not good enough. And it can really, really, really make you feel like you're small and insignificant. And I'm just really glad that I had basketball and Cecil and those guys to be like, make me realize that I'm not nothing, and there is something else out there. And a lot I do.
I remember you when we would ask you, would say, which sport do you love? And you're like, when I'm playing basketball, I love basketball. When I'm playing soccer, I love soccer. And you did. You had equal passion, and you were able to play both year round, and so it was great. But yeah, I don't think you've even touched a soccer ball since that day.
I think I played like one. I'll sometimes pick it up and juggle. Like I still enjoy, like if it's soccer ball's just laying there, I'll just pick it up and juggle for a little bit. But I haven't played a soccer game since I left that team. It would be fun.
Okay, but you did dabble in one more sport in middle school at Paul Revere. They had a volleyball team.
Yeah.
And we had some friends who needed some players. And so your mom said, you should play volleyball. Yeah. So you did play 2 years or 3 years on the middle school.
2 years.
2 years on the middle school team.
Talk
about your volleyball experience, being the shortest guy.
Yeah, volleyball was fun. I mean, I was a setter when I was doing it. And one thing that I always loved about volleyball was peppering. And I remember like we would always pepper in the backyard. Even this summer we did too. Volleyball is such a fun sport, and I really wish I would have explored it more in high school. Granted, our high school team was like insane. Like we had, I don't even know how many scholarships, probably 7 scholarships on our team. So I was like, there's like no point. Like I shouldn't do it. But I mean, looking back, I wish I would have just at least tried, because I was 5'6" at the time, 5'5" in middle school. So there wasn't much spiking going on in my side of the sport. I was more like just setting. But I had such a great time, and I also think because it was such a relaxed environment. Like I don't know if we lost a set. That's also because all I had to do was throw it near Owen Longcar, and he would spike it like in front of the 10-foot line, like he was an animal and still is. But I loved I loved volleyball. And I mean I think I've talked about it with my mom too, just about trying to do it again. And I wish I would have done it in high school, seeing as now like I got a lot more athletic and taller, and like I've got a pretty good physique for volleyball. It would have been like I could have been pretty good at it too, had I given it a chance. I think I kind of just it was kind of this, I don't know. I think a little bit of like I found my passion with basketball, and then as things got a little more serious, like I didn't really want to try volleyball at the risk of like getting injured or like something else happening.
Mm-hmm. No, totally understandable. But I mean, we lived in San Diego, which is where Chase Bettinger, who played at Arizona, who played in the NBA, who just played in Paris in beach volleyball. So
Yeah.
he pivoted. I mean, but he played on the beach growing up for fun. And then, he just played in the Olympics, which, what an amazing opportunity. But that's my point around multi-sports, right? Like the better athlete you are, the more you decide, okay, I'm going to try pickleball. I'm going to try golf.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, golf's another one that you just this summer really kind of started to be like, oh, I actually kind of like this.
Yeah. And that was something that I did when I was younger too. I mean, you had us do some lessons and stuff. But yeah, no, really got into golf this summer too, especially with the knee injury. I was kind of just not able to be as mobile, so golf was something that kept my competitive side going, because I definitely always need something to fulfill that, because I always kind of am wanting to win in some capacity. But yeah, no, I honestly feel like I have kind of just a natural like desire to play sports and I don't know, do as many things as possible.
So let's fast forward to high school. So CJ goes off to Loyola right when we first arrived in LA. 3 years later, you're now a freshman. Do you remember your experience getting to Loyola and how you felt? And were you excited to be there? And
Yeah. I think there was a lot of new experiences there, and I think for the first like semester, it kind of didn't really feel like, I don't know, I fit in or belonged there or something, or I had my friends, because I remember like looking at CJ and he had his whole friend group and they all played basketball and everything, and I just didn't feel like I had that at the time. And a lot of
well,
like,
you only had one friend go with you from your middle
yeah,
school, right? Because it was
exactly, yeah.
a public middle school. It wasn't a Catholic school, so it wasn't like a natural feeder to this high school. So I remember having you do the basketball camp, and you took a music
Yeah.
production class in the
Yeah.
summer, because I
Yeah.
thought, well, it'll get him on campus. So at least you're not walking. I mean, you'd been to CJ's games, but at least you were like, oh, you met a few people in summer school. You got to play, in the summer league. You picked up this little other side hobby that will show up again for you in a couple years later
Mhm.
of music production. So yeah, how long did it take for things to pick up? Or was basketball season was just around the corner, I guess. So
Yeah, I think once basketball kind of happened freshman year, I kind of felt like I belonged more, because at least I had like a team and some people I was around. I think for a little bit, I definitely felt a little out of place. And it's actually kind of funny because me and Sammy kind of related in that sense. Like we both talked about that, how we felt like we were a little out of place. But I think, I mean, basketball is just, and sports in general are just such a great connector to people. And whenever I play basketball, like a lot of my teammates just become my friends, just how, like, it's just kind of how it works, almost like naturally. Like I met Matthias through basketball, and yeah, one of my closest friends, and then even Jalen, who now I'm at college with, was on that basketball team. Um, I don't know. I kind of freshman year went by so fast, and you're kind of just like the whole time trying to like like you have a lot going on in your head. You're trying to figure out, and you're just really confused, and you're no longer in middle school. You're in high school, and but just kind of trying to figure out who you are too at the same time. So there's just like a lot going on. Um, but yeah, I
well,
do
I can
remember.
I can. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just say full confession. Because you were at a public middle school, you would have fed into Pali High, which was the public high school. But where we lived, we needed to apply to get to that high school because our natural high school was Uni, actually. but I wanted you to go to Loyola. And you said, I don't want to go. It's not co-ed. I want to go to Pali.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you don't have we talked about this summer, and you're like, I don't really remember that. But I say that because parents, I think, struggle with, should I give them the option? Should I let them go what they want to do? And I think at some point we have to parent. And I had a vision of, no, you and your brother are going to have 1 year together, and maybe 1 year ever together, because of the 3-year age difference. And I just said, I always went with worst case scenario, you go to Loyola and it's not for you. We can always transfer to Pali, but I wanted you two to have that experience. And you didn't throw a fit, but you also weren't ecstatic about it, because you're like, I don't really want to go single sex. I really don't, but you're like, okay, I'll get to be with CJ.
Yeah, I mean, I think our relationship took off that year too, for sure. Now that looking back at, that was kind of mom's doing. It's kind of funny when you think about it. You kind of think like, oh, naturally me and CJ got closer. Oh, no, mom kind of had some play in it. Because we got really close just from those drives, and he would, like, the morning he would have to drive me because I couldn't get there, and he was my only means of transportation. But he would,
and we lived 10 miles from the high school, so anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes, depending on how fast CJ was going, which I don't want to know.
And how late he was getting up. Man, there would be some mornings I would be up at like 6:30, got a shower, had my Eggo waffle or whatever, and I'm waiting there 7:10, and he just rolls out of bed at 7:20, and we're like gonna be late, and I got my teachers yelling at me for being late, and CJ's a senior, he doesn't even care, and I'm like getting mad at CJ because I'm like, dude, we gotta like go, and he could care less. But it's also just being a senior, they don't really punish us hard. I will say he definitely does care about his academics, but yeah, I think our relationship definitely grew there because it was kind of through music and basketball, but like him playing music in the car and kind of putting me on to different artists. And then we just kind of were forced to spend more time together. So we got a lot closer because of that, I think, because we would have drives every morning together. And I think ever since that day, not that day, but that year, our relationship got way tighter than it's ever been. So, yeah.
So volleyball phases out because, in your defense, you had 5 a.m. practices for basketball, or early morning and late nights. And then volleyball season was right after that. And that's what they were going to ask you to do. And you were like, yeah, I'm not that interested in that. But you start to play for BTI then, right?
No, I didn't play with BTI until junior year. I was still playing with SCA.
Oh, for 2 more years. Okay.
Yeah, we played because Charlie came my freshman year. So I think we played, I can't remember if the timelines, I know I played 2 years of BTI, but I'm not sure if that sophomore summer I played with SCA. I don't know if you remember either.
Well, so I'd hear parents, newsflash, when you're in the moment, you think, oh, that's so important, and you're never going to forget this, and this is going to define the rest of their life. And I'm sitting here scratching my head too, because I only have memories of you playing BTI for 2 years, but I thought you stopped with Cecil at 8th grade.
No, because I do remember, the only reason I remember this is because he had us do the stair running. And I remember being on the bus back from Loyola thinking of excuses to get out of the stair running. So that's like the only reason why I remember. So I think it was just freshman year. I don't know, sophomore summer what I did, but there was a little void there. And then it was BTI. But yeah, BTI was great. I must have just not. Well, because sophomore summer was COVID. So,
no. Oh, yes.
Sophomore summer was COVID, so I didn't.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, I didn't play. There wasn't really any time for recruiting. There it is. That's why.
Okay.
And then the junior year with BTI, because CJ had played with Robert, and that was, I mean, my BTI experience was phenomenal. Robert really helped with my recruitment, like through the roof. Like it was insane. Like my junior year, I was like, it was kind of challenging because I was like the younger guy, or if not the youngest on the team. And we had all these guys who wanted to get Division I scholarships, and it was like their last chance to get it. And so that team was great. Like it was good, like good experience just to be on that team. But there was a little bit of like not as much passing as I would have loved. And I think the AAU experience is very tough in that sense where you're kind of having to be more selfish. And I kind of struggle with that. Like I always struggled whenever we had like these showcases that you would have to go to because I'm not the type of guy to just go ISO for like 5 possessions in a row and get like, I don't look good doing that. I look good when I'm moving and setting screens and getting the ball, passing it, making plays for others and getting like knocking down open shots, like all those things I'm really good at, but going ISO, like that was never my forte. And I think BTI was great for that because they kind of promoted more passing, but that first year was tough. I mean, I
remember the ball got stuck more was what
the
theme of that season was.
Well, and it's tough though because I also understand because we had like one guy who was in his 5th year of high school or something wanting to get recruited. Adam Hinton was on that team. He wanted to get recruited too. Like we had a lot of older guys who were like ready to like wanted to take the next step, and this was kind of like their last chance. So it's kind of tough in that.
Did you understand that at that time?
Actually, what's at the time I want to go back because I actually just thought of this memory, and this memory was huge. Was the first game we had, the first tournament. I don't know if you remember this, Mom, but I think once I talk about it, you will. The first game we had, I actually missed. Like we were playing like a back-to-back game or something, and I missed the first game. Like I thought the time was later, and like I didn't show up to the game. Like completely missed it, just totally on my end, just not thinking. And then I drive down to the second game. And I just remember feeling like really uncomfortable because I had just missed the first game of the season, like of like the AAU tournament, and like not feeling sure of myself. And get to the second game, the team we played was not even great, and I probably had one of the worst games of my life. Like airballed like 2 threes, was just turning it over, like did not have a good game at all, and like. I remember like back in like the Buffalo days when I was a lot younger, like crying on the sidelines whenever things wouldn't go my way. And I hadn't had that happen in a while. And I remember being at that game, like on the sideline, like I was in tears, like I was trying to hide it though, because I didn't want anyone on my team to see it because it was like the first time I was playing with them. And I remember that car ride back, I like was so done with basketball. Like I wanted to quit. I was so over it. It was, I'm thinking back at it and it's kind of crazy to think that this did happen, but it's kind of funny how like you kind of, even though you know it wasn't a straight line, you do feel like it was like, oh, everything's great. Like I just got recruited and all this stuff. But I remember driving back in that car, like just sobbing, bawling tears. Like, I hate this sport. Like I'm not good enough. I'm not like, why do I even try? Like there's no point. And I remember calling you guys and we just had like a conversation, and that was maybe the hardest I've ever cried in my life, honestly. Like it was just like I wasn't even able to talk. And
I think it was around that time. I'll jump in to say it was around that time. I don't know exactly that. I remember that happening, and at the same time, when we'd ask you, "Do you want to play?" you'd say yes, but then you would say, "Okay, so what are you doing to get recruited?" Nothing. Are you sending out tape? No. Are you doing emails? No. Like, what are you doing to contribute to the process? So I went and printed out every conference in the United States basketball, Division 1, 2, 3, and we laid them on the kitchen counter and just said, well, where would you want to go? And you're like, I don't know. But the more we dug down into the conversation, you basically said, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think I can play at any of these places, right? Even though we were sitting there telling you, no, Robert says you're good. Mike Teller says you're good. Like all these people, Jamal is a huge fan. There are people that were believing in you. But at that moment, and I think COVID was a huge part of that, where you were like, I've been sitting in my pajamas for 18 months, occasionally playing, but not getting the exposure and the reps that you would have gotten had you had normal high school seasons and normal club seasons. And I remember that being a super low point of, ooh, and you saying, what am I without basketball? I might as well just call it, because this is the only thing I do. And again, I felt, oh my gosh, I feel like an awful parent. I could care less. I mean, yes, it's great if you play basketball, if you love it, but that is not who you are. It's one thing of what you do.
Yeah, I think having the self-belief was definitely lacking at that time where I can remember that feeling after that game of just like I've never felt more like insecure and like so like like I don't think like even like when I was with the soccer having that feeling I didn't even it wasn't even close to the basketball because I thought like I had this passion and I had these people telling me, and then when I had this game I just felt like I was like, no, they're all wrong, there's no way I'm good enough, like I just played terrible against a team that wasn't even that great. And I there's definitely a combination of things that was happening with that too. I mean, I think you can talk about COVID and like not being able to like be socialized as much, but there was also just a lack of belief for sure. And I mean, I think once I got like my senior year and like the post grad year were great for me in terms of like also just confidence. Because I think I had people telling me that I was good enough, but I didn't believe fully that I was good enough. You know what I mean? I kind of had this self doubt, and I think I was kind of skeptical to believe because I was like, there was a little part of me that was like scared of like, what if I do believe and then it doesn't happen? Like, how silly would I look? You know what I mean? Like, kind of just like,
Mm-hmm.
but like at the end of the day, who really cares if like, you know what I mean? So, but just like thinking back on it, I was just so scared to fail and so scared to like not reach like the potential that people saw in me that I didn't want to let them down. That I thought that quitting would have just made it way easier, so I didn't even have to struggle through it at all. Um,
So if I could jump in there from a parent's perspective. So if you haven't listened to the episode with CJ, his older brother, check that out because we do go deep into what is a post grad year with you because your older brother had done a PG year. In knowing that you had gone through kind of this struggle in high school because of COVID and everything and not getting recruited, like we were all in with you doing a PG year just because we knew it was going to give you this time that you
yeah,
needed. And it wasn't a foreign concept. We knew, CJ went in, had 15 offers before he even finished the summer before he started his post grad year. So we knew it's not a guarantee, but we knew it was possible. And we knew you had the potential. And that's what everyone, was saying as well. And that's what you'd always been saying. You were that kid that
hmm
when we would do vision board exercises together, you had both basketball and soccer on there. You were like, I'm not sure which one it is, but this is what I really want. So with you articulating that, let's fast forward to post grad. So your senior fall, you and I fly out to go look at 5 different PG schools,
hmm
post grad schools, which is basically a 13th year. You don't get credit for it, but it gives you this opportunity to be away from home, to mature, to get to play in front of a ton of college coaches. And if you pick the right school coach opportunity, it also can be a fabulous experience. So let's talk about maybe not the whole recruiting process. Let's not dive into that. But you ended up choosing Worcester Academy, who had recruited CJ, so we knew both of Coach Sullivan's.
hmm
But talk about getting to Worcester and what that was like, not experience.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to talk about Worcester and not talk about Jamie Sullivan because he's just such a character, and I'm eternally grateful for him. And still like, still talk to him a bunch, as much as I can. Um, I think just talking about that experience, it was amazing in so many different aspects. Like as far as like coming to college, like it was kind of like college on training wheels. Like you're living in a dorm, you're having to go get food, you're like your own boss. And I think it really helped me like figure out like, okay, like I got to eat healthy. Like there's no one telling me, okay, and I got to go to bed at the right time. Cause when I was there, I wasn't really doing those things as well. And I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity to like see how like the way I was living wasn't as good. Also like taking care of your room and all these other things. But talking about like more the basketball side, um, I mean, ultra competitive as far as with practices because we had a Duke commit, a Marquette commit, a Georgetown commit, and another D1 player as well who went to Stonehill, and then 2 other guys who walked on at a D1, and then like 2 D3 guys, which is like so the practices were like a huge step up from when I was in high school, And I also think the culture and just the environment was so different. Like it wasn't like when I like at Loyola, it's not that it was like frowned upon to work hard, but it wasn't like anyone was like getting it up shots after practice or like going in early to get like do extra work or do anything. But at Worcester, like you're living on campus, the gym's 1 minute away, 30 seconds away, and like the culture was to go like do extra work, and like we had really good like player led leadership from some high level players. And I'm like so grateful as far as like, yeah, like the recruitment was amazing too. I'm like eternally grateful for that as well. But I also think that experience to like develop like confidence and just like learning how to lead too was also an amazing experience there, because we I mean that team was just so fun to play with because such a talented team. Like we literally had a couple games where we have 4 guys who got 15 plus points. Just ultra talented. Yeah, it was. I'm not doing a great job of it explaining like the ins and outs of it, but it was just a great experience.
Well, maybe talk about your transition. They called and said, we are graduating one guy, Parker, and it's your position. So yeah. we would love to have you, because the 4 returners are all the top players. So there is a spot for you. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but we are saying if you work hard, you can earn that position. And I think early in the season, you had started to get some recruitment, but you were, saying these guys are better than me. They're bigger than me. They're faster than me. So early in the season, I think your role, you felt, was to be more of the facilitator, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was definitely I was being more passive because like these guys had such big opportunities. And again, it was kind of like this lack of belief in myself, which I should stop doing because I keep talking about it and I keep doing it. But
it's a theme.
It's a theme. But yeah, in the beginning too, I kind of felt like it wasn't like I walked in and like all of a sudden like I had a bunch of offers and things were great and the guys all believed in me. Like you gotta like show that you can hang a little bit too. And like I also knew that I was like the only new guy. Well, there was a couple of new faces, but that was getting significant minutes and like I kind of wanted to prove myself a little bit too. And I mean, both Trey and Kayvon, who like ultra good defenders, were putting me through the ringer. I mean, I talked about it with Coach Crocker a couple of times too, where like I was like trying to get recruited and I got like 5 coaches here to see me, and I got Kayvon already picking me up full court, and I can't even dribble like 5 feet to the left or 5 feet to the right without it stealing from me. And I remember just being like dying to get out of those, like trying to just get past half court because I got guys who are literally like stripping it from me like every 5 seconds. But I also think that was a great experience because I know that my ball handling isn't as great, but I can use my body. I can use like different parts of like my strong suits to like cater towards me and what I can do well. So I think like having guys who push you like that in practice is so amazing. And having like teammates who like want you to get better too.
And for those who don't know, so what I love about the PG experience, so they have what they call open runs, and a lot of them are at 6 a.m. And if a coach is interested in a player, they'll be anywhere between 5 and 50. I mean, maybe 30 more like, but you could have 30, 40 coaches in the morning in a 6 a.m. open run where you're just playing full on and they're watching how you compete, because it's not about the scoreboard. It's not about, necessarily even like how do you remember those being stressful?
Oh my gosh, I remember those. Those were those were incredible and also very tiring at the same time. But I remember just I think the first initial were very stressful. Just because you're like, actually I wouldn't say it was very stressful because I got used to playing in front of coaches after a while. Like I think like the first couple of games, like when I was in my junior year, oh my gosh, I was like so nervous to play, like thinking about everything I'm doing. Like, I don't even know. It was just, it's like almost like when you see a cute girl or something, like, am I walking the right way? Am I like, you're like so self-conscious about yourself. You know what I mean? because you want to impress this person. And then once I got to Worcester, I had like a year and a half of playing in front of coaches and had got some recruitment, so I felt more comfortable. I hadn't played in front of the level of coaches that we were playing in front of too. Like, I mean, like some high level guys too.
Shaka Smart and
Yeah. What's his name? Shire came to one of our runs
Shire.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's definitely a little bit of nervousness every time. But once you start, I mean, with basketball, it's like once you start playing and once you hit that first shot or make that play, like make that pass or like you just like you kind of get relaxed. And those are so much fun because playing. I mean, I don't know any basketball player that doesn't like just hooping, like just like playing 5-on-5 or just scrimmaging. Like if you don't like that, then you don't really like playing basketball. You know what I mean? So it's a lot more enjoyable doing that than just like going through practice and stuff. And I think it's great because compared to LA, when I was practicing, like we maybe had one college coach come to one practice, whereas this one, like I had like different coaches coming to a bunch of these open runs and it's over a couple of months. And so you have like 20 to 30 different times to prove yourself. So it's not like, okay, here I got to play so good. And if I don't, they're never coming back. Like I think Coach Crocker came to a handful, like more than a handful of mine. And I definitely, I mean, there the one I'm talking about where Kayvon was just stealing the ball from me endlessly. And then probably the next open run I played out of my mind and I hit a bunch of threes, made a great pass. Like it made it a lot less stressful. The fact that you had so much more opportunity, you know what I mean? And that's why I also love the post-grad years because I don't know if there's any other situation where you're going to get as many eyes on you than a post-grad year and playing in the NEPSAC and even like the NEPSAC, like summer league, like a little thing that they have going on too. Like it becomes a lot less stressful because you don't feel like, okay, this game is going to determine whether or not I go play Division I basketball, which I felt like before I got any recruitment and before I was playing in front of coaches a lot, it felt like, okay, this game, like I have to play amazing. And if I don't,
it's over.
I'm not going to, it's over. And it's weird because like saying it out loud, it sounds crazy, but you like kind of justify it when you're in it. You know what I mean? But yeah.
So let's talk about recruitment and getting to spoiler alert, Colgate. But you had quite a few quarters that were very interested in you coming and taking visits. And I remember it became that whole fall of that post-grad year was you had started dating someone a few months earlier. So you were in a relationship. So you were in love and busy with that. And then it was like, okay, let's try to figure out, do you want to be on the West Coast? Do you have enough opportunity to be in Pepperdine, or do you want to go to Texas? There was Stephen F. Austin was looking at you, or do you want to be in the Northeast and, or in the South in North Carolina and UNC Greensboro or Vermont or Colgate or Boston University, which is where your brother was at the time. So
the list goes on.
There were quite a few awesome options. And do you remember, I mean, we don't have to go into all of it, but just, again, for people understanding, when trying to make a decision on the next 4 years of your life, but going, are you going to be happy at that school, regardless of whether the basketball, I mean, you may go and have a great experience. You may not play. So do you like the school? Do you like what it has to offer? Do you like the staff? Do you like the players? So you and I did a few trips together to several different campuses. Why ultimately did you choose Colgate?
Yeah, I think it was a very long process of me actually deciding because I think I took a visit. Well, I mean, we had that whole like little 2 weeks where we went on like 4 official visits. I remember the end of that week just being like, oh. But glad we did that though, and I'm glad that it was like kind of all at the same time. And I think I ended up spending like 3 months actually deciding. But I think what it came down to, like what led my decision, a lot of it was just how authentic I felt and how like, because I mean, looking at CJ, this is another reason why I'm so grateful for him and what he's like showed me just as an older brother is like he kind of had this experience with Coach Jones and everything, and it didn't really pan out as he wanted to, and like kind of promised certain things and felt like he maybe didn't get those things. And when I talked with Coach Langle, there was never really like a promise of what's going to happen. It was kind of more of like what we would want you to do and how we see you getting there and what we would want you to. It wasn't like you're going to do this. Like Tucker was one of the guys that they kind of like were talking about a lot about how he got to where he was and how they helped him. But it was never like you're going to be Tucker. Like it was never like you're going to fill this role. You know what I mean? So it was like you're going to be Parker within our system. You know what I mean? So
we want you to be the best version of yourself. We're not looking for you to fill somebody else's shoes. Yeah,
exactly. And Vermont was, I think for me, it was between Colgate and Vermont. And I think when you look at them statistically, like both very good mid-major Division I schools, both went to the tournament last year, both have been dominating their leagues. And not to say that Vermont didn't feel authentic. I just didn't feel as like they had so many wings and so many guys who did what I did. That they never really talked about it, but it was kind of something that I kind of noticed personally. Whereas like at Colgate, I noticed that there was like a lack of wings and guards and forwards who could do what I do. And that's like opportunity. You know what I mean? And also further, like, I just really enjoyed my visit. Like it was one of the best visits I had, and enjoyed getting to know the guys and the people. And also, I mean, academics was also something that was huge for me and for you and Dad. Kind of also were talking about it a lot. And Colgate was probably what Colgate is the best academic school offer that I had, besides like some of the Ivy Leagues. And that was also a huge point of emphasis for me, was getting a great education and setting myself up for the future and using basketball to help me do that. Because I mean, getting a scholarship is such a blessing and such a boost. So to not use it to its full capability would be kind of silly.
To take a line from the CJ Jones sales page, it's not my next 4 years. It's my
40.
It's my 40-year plan. But it's true.
I used that line. That was a good little pitch line. I kind of stole that from CJ, because I remember hearing that and I was like, oh, that's nice. And I would tell some of the coaches, and like they'd be like, oh, I really like that. Yeah, that's great. And I was like, yeah, I've totally thought of that myself.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when that popped out, but at some point it popped out and every coach like gobbled it up. And so he's like, yeah, I'm going to use that one a lot.
Yeah.
But you had very, very, very consistent recruiting from Coach Crocker, who showed up back to July. And we laugh about it now, but he was supposed to be in Orange County for a day, I think, and then he was supposed to fly to Atlanta to Peach Jam. And I saw him in the parking lot leaving to go to the next tournament. And then the next game you're playing, he's sitting there. And I was like, didn't you miss your flight? And he's like, I canceled it. He's like, yeah. I'm all in on Parker Jones. Yeah. And he followed you for the next week. And again, I say that to give you context around going where you are wanted. Like when they show you who they are and they believe in you, believe them. Yeah. And I think that was very consistent. I mean, he's the only coach who wrote handwritten notes to us throughout the recruiting process. I think I just got another one just, a couple of months ago, which shows me that you're not just a number on the roster, but you're part of the family, which I know from my own experience, having been at 2 different colleges, that second college where the coach was in my wedding and I talk to her still 30 years later on a monthly basis, that makes a difference in what you're going to experience. Because if you haven't been listening to the last hour, there are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be times when you don't believe in yourself. There are going to be times when you don't play well, when you may hit the side of the backboard on a 3-point corner turnaround shot, right? Yeah. That you may feel like, what am I doing? And you need to have people that say, you've got this.
Yeah, and he still does that too, to this day, where you kind of talk to him, he'll just randomly check in on you and say, like, how are you doing mentally? Like how's everything going emotionally? How are you doing in school? Like, he's one of the first coaches I've had where he's so bought into also the mental side of how everything's going with you. And a lot of the coaches are in the whole coaching staff. Like, they actually care about how you're personally doing. And he was there from day one. I remember, like, when I got my first offer or whatever, he was like at that game and he's been there for a while, and we kind of joke about how like he was like, I don't even know. He was just saying that he wasn't gonna lose Parker Jones. Like he was gonna make sure that he was gonna do everything in his power to make sure that he knew that I was wanted. That I knew that I was wanted.
A
And so
plus.
yeah, that's and that's something that I'm really grateful for you and Dad to as well, is because you guys always preach and talk about going where you're wanted. And I feel wanted at Colgate, which is such an amazing validation to also have as a person and as a player, to feel like, okay, like I made the right choice. You know what I mean?
But ultimately, did you feel pressure from Dad and I around what, your brother was at a different school, like you had some other offers, or do you feel like it was 100% up to you?
I definitely think it was all up to me at the end of the day. I mean, I think the like academic part at the time I was a little more resistant to, just because I was like wanting to just play. I was more focused on basketball, but I was like, okay, they probably know what they're talking about, but I wasn't fully bought into it. And now I'm like really grateful that I like listen to you guys in that regard, because I think there is a little bit of parenting that is involved in it, as far as just like helping them with some things that they might not understand as an 18, 19, 20-year old, 19 or 18 year old. Um, but it was ultimately my decision. I think if anything, it was more tough with like the CJ part, just him being at BU, and that was the other place. And I was kind of conflicted on if he actually like was okay with me going to another school, or if he wanted me to go to BU, or if he didn't want me to go to BU. Like I was kind of unsure of like where he stood, and I didn't want to make like the wrong. I didn't think that our relationship would be like, if I go to a different school, he's never going to talk to me. But I also thought that there was still a little bit of like it would be super cool to play with my brother for like a year in college. Like that would be, how amazing would that be? Um, but yeah, I think I took a long time to make a decision, and Coach Crocker will let me know about that.
Well, I
For as
remember
long as I'm
Coach
at Colgate, but yeah.
Coach Langle, who I didn't really talk to that much, called me like December, I want to say, beginning of December, late November. And I thought, oh, here's the call. It's going to be okay, Parker needs to make a decision. And it was, in fact, the opposite. And he said, I remember being 18, 19, and not being able to make a choice. And he said, ultimately, my dad chose. He said,
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah, he said, I
Yeah.
couldn't decide. And so my dad chose Penn for me. And he goes, so I get it. And he said, I am not going to put any pressure on Parker. There is no list. When Parker's ready to make a decision, there's a spot for him. And that's pretty powerful, because we've been in situations where, and if again, for parents who are going through it for the first time, if they're hard selling you and telling you that the sale ends in 20 minutes and you better sign right now, just be aware that's probably happening for a reason, and you probably will see that tactic again. But
Yeah.
when you have somebody who just truly wants you and says, okay, yes, we can't wait until April, but we want him to reach the conclusion so that he feels good about the decision. And that spoke volumes to your dad and I, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So let's fast forward to getting to Colgate. I moved you into the dorm actually, you went out there in the summer to do workouts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the team, once every 4 years, gets to do an international trip. So you guys got to go to France last summer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which was a kind of a cool bonding experience before you even started at Colgate, right?
totally. Yeah, it was great. That was probably the best time to have the Europe experience, either freshman or senior year, I'd say. But that was great just to like, because the summer workouts are great. I mean, Colgate's unique in the fact that we don't really have summer training. We just have 2 weeks in the summer where we train, which I'm actually very, very happy about, because it's kind of more on you to do your training, and I personally enjoy that. But yeah, the France trip was awesome, because I mean, there's a little bit of like, you don't really know everyone, and you're still trying to learn everything, and you're playing some games and trying to figure it out. But yeah, that trip was just great to connect with all the guys and be with people who you haven't really met before, but like connect on a different level. And you're like going and exploring a city and stuff outside of basketball, which is really great too. So you're just kind of naturally talking and getting to know each other. So yeah, that whole trip was amazing. And then you play like 3 games. And yeah, I remember our first game. Oh man, it was kind of like that one game all over again of kind of like the doubting myself or like not believing in myself on if I'm worthy enough to be in the position. And I remember like the first game we had, we got these. I can't blame it all on the shoes, but we're an Under Armour sponsored team, and I don't wear the Curry shoes anymore, and it's because of this reason. Um, but they kind of have like this like when you have like a Nike shoe or some other shoes, like it kind of like squeaks and it kind of slides, whereas the Curry, it just like stops you in your tracks. Um, and I got like a fast break and I'm going down and I go to dunk and my foot like gets stuck almost because like usually it just like squeaks and I slide a little bit, but I just get caught and I go to dunk it and I don't have enough air. And so I like miss it or whatever. And I'm in like a stadium of a bunch of random French people, not a stadium, but like a little like court, just random French people. And I hear them like laugh when I miss. And then I think we get a rebound or something. And then I miss a layup. And then we like come back down and I just like a lot went wrong. And then like the next time I was like so nervous too at the same time. And then like, I think there was like Braden like threw a lob to one of us or something and I didn't get it and I just like messed up and I remember just feeling like, oh my God, I'm so terrible. And like just kind of that same feeling of like I'm not good enough and like kind of like just beating myself up. I was really sad after the game. And then what was actually funny was Coach Langle like showed me some film. I think I can't remember exactly when it was. Maybe it was either in France or it was like when we got back or something, but he was like, no, it had to be in France. It was in France. He's like, wow, you had a really good game. And I was like,
what were you watching?
The same game? Like what are we talking about here? Like I didn't score. I turned it over, like all these other things. And he's like, no, look, there was like, he showed like a rebound I got, and then he showed like me boxing out, and then he showed like me making an extra pass, me cutting through, me setting up someone else. Like having a coach like that who can, he's not looking at how many points you score. He's looking at what you're able to do. It was just like, so like, I was like, what is going on right now? And then,
so I actually have the WhatsApp texts from you from that week. So we weren't there, okay. But I wake up one morning, 6:50 a.m., Parker Jones. We just finished the game. I did not play good. I had an open layup and missed it. And then we got a steal and I got another chance and just missed a dunk. And I finally wrote back 2 hours later, no big deal. It's just a start. And you wrote back, oh my God, I felt so pathetic. Got to start somewhere. It's a game. It's a game. It's a moment, I said. And you were, yeah, I know. And I wrote back, everyone knows what you're capable of. Mm-hmm. And you wrote back, but I feel like they don't. I don't know if I'm just in my head right now, but I'm also just really annoyed with myself. Like I felt like I play bad. If I play bad, these guys won't like me. Completely understandable. You've been working so hard. Yeah, I just don't want to suck right now. We've all had that fear of not being enough. I don't know. I'm just really frustrated. It's coming. Like I came to the game really relaxed and I like just got slapped in the face. Like I just had a giant ego death. It's a huge adjustment. Be kind to yourself. It's one little blip. It's not like you lost all your talent. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. And then I don't hear from you. I don't hear from you for a few days. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going to ask about the second game because who knows how it went. But what happened the next game?
I played really well. I mean, just a phenomenal game. Like the first half, like we weren't playing that well as a team, but I think I had like, I don't even know how many points, 13 or something points in the first half, and was like just ultra confident and just so sure of myself and like just so happy and so free. And like, it was just so relieving too, from a sense where like after the game, like no one treated me differently than when I like no one treated me like more special after that game when I played great compared to when I didn't play good. You know what I mean? And in my head, I truly did believe that if I didn't play good, that these guys aren't gonna like me. And that is still something that I kind of like sits in my head too, like to this day, about like I don't know what it is, but about like proving myself to people, or like wanting them to. I don't even know exactly what the right fear is, or how to describe why I want to play good. So
Well, conflating your love and approval with an external source versus just knowing I gave it my all, and some days I'm going to blow the doors off, and other days it's not going to be my day, which, by the way, every single human has, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was so funny, because I went from like just feeling so terrible to like, oh, I belong here. I deserve to be here. Like this is not a mistake. You know what I mean? And it's
and thinking
funny.
about the coaching you got in between, which was keep doing what you're doing, whatever.
Yeah. And
I had
go ahead.
The chat with Coach Crocker, and he said, yeah, Coach Lengel came up to me and said, what'd you think of that game? And Coach Crocker said, well, I've seen him play better. And Coach Crocker said, I thought he played great. I think Crocker had the same thing, like, what game were you watching?
Yeah.
But to your point, that's what makes him a phenomenal coach, because he sees beyond the ball just going in the basket.
He totally does. And it also has opened my eyes to basketball in a bigger sense when I watch the sport too, about what makes players like Draymond Green and these other role players so great is because of what they do to set up their teammates. And like one big thing that I've learned this year is like cutting and like offensive rebounds, like making a good cut. Like the guy who like we talk a lot about it a lot in our offense, of like cutting through and then the next guy filling up, and like that guy then has a lane to score, or like he hits a shot. Like a lot of times in practice, when that guy makes that cut and then another guy gets a shot, like you'll hear a coach shout out the guy who made the cut, or like Coach Lengel will stop and be like, okay, why were you open? Like this happened. I remember this happened in practice the other day where Chandler got an open three at the top of the key when we were on fast break. And then Coach Lengel stopped practice and was like, Chandler, why were you open there? And like, he was like, because Sam Wright cut, Parker cut, and then I was open at the top. Like he wants to make sure that everyone understands like that's appreciated and that's valued. And I think that's like such good coaching. And just really good from all around, because it also makes you want to make that play, and because you get validation from it. Whereas I feel like when you're younger, that play doesn't get noticed as much.
So playing out the rest of your freshman year, you get some really good minutes, but then in between this, in the middle of the season, you get mono. Maybe you got COVID.
Yeah, I got some illness. I think it was COVID. No, the mono was at the end of the year. I got COVID in the middle of the year.
Okay. But in the middle of the season, though, you were starting to play really well.
Yeah.
You broke into the starting lineup and then got sick, and that kind of also gave you a dip. There's a theme here, right? Like there are going to be ups and downs in every season, in every, career, and every, like that's part of this. So, but the team as a whole is very solid. You win the conference, and you get to go to March Madness. So let's just cut to the chase, because getting to go to Memphis and play against Baylor, what are your memories of that?
Oh man, it was just an amazing experience. Like the whole thing. Like I remember just filling out a bracket and seeing like the team I'm playing on is on it, and it's like something that I've been doing as a kid. Like that was just unreal. Like I felt like I was just like, I don't even know, not even like a kid on Christmas. It was like more than that. It was like times 10, because I was just the whole time I'm just like, I can't believe I'm in March Madness right now. Like I remember going out on the court and like. It was funny because I think I was more nervous like our first game of the season compared to like playing in March Madness. Like I was definitely nervous playing in March Madness, but I had a three in whatever it was in like the first quarter. I hit it over like that like 7-foot giant or whatever. I forgot his name, but I hit that three and I literally felt like like I was so confident. I didn't feel like scared at all. And I was like, okay, I belong. Like I'm here. Like, let's do this. Like, I remember just being totally in it and like wanting to win and all that stuff. But the whole experience is great. And I remember like one of the last things, like the memory that I had was sitting at the free throw line and just looking at the court, like looking down and seeing March Madness everywhere I look, and like looking in the stands and everything, and playing Baylor is like an insane team too. Like that whole experience was so surreal, and it went by in like the blink of an, like it was just all so quick. But I think the whole time I was trying to like marinate in everything and enjoy it as much as possible, and super happy I scored. So I'm on the March Madness like all-time scoring list, if there even is a list. But but getting to score in March Madness is like the 1% of the 1%, which is pretty freaking awesome. And just I think that whole experience is great, and want to get back there.
Yeah, that was a fun experience back to back. Your brother's now playing at Claremont McKenna. They go to the D3. They win their league. They get to go into March Madness. They get all the way to the Sweet 16 in D3. And then 2 weeks later, we get to fly out to watch you play in Memphis. And again, just it's not even about whether you won or not. It was just that my thing that made my heart really happy was when we were talking to you afterwards. You said, yeah, a lot of the guys were so bummed in the locker room, but you said, I just had this perspective of gratitude of, yeah, but we're here. Like we made it. Yes. Do we wish we would have been more competitive? Absolutely. But to really be able to be in the moment and be able to appreciate that I am made for this. I worked all of these ups and downs that I've had got me to this moment, and I deserve to be here.
Yeah. I feel like I usually struggle at like just being able to be in the moment, but for some reason I was really able to just like fully embrace it and fully enjoy just all of it. I mean, I remember the night before though, I could not sleep. I remember like I tried to go to bed at like 10:30 and was up until like 12, just like tossing and turning, trying to go to sleep because you're just like so excited and nervous and all these different emotions. But yeah, that was just
okay. So we're gonna fast forward now. So you're a sophomore now. You've been back for what, about a month now. School's going well. You're liking. There's now some new guys on the team. You had 3 guys graduate. 1 guy went in the portal. So you're going to be a new team, right?
Yeah, 4 guys graduate. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 guys graduate. We're going to be a young team for sure. It's weird being a sophomore and being like having to be more of that leadership
veteran
role. Yeah, because I'm still trying to figure out some of the stuff too. Like I'm still not fully, like I went through a year of it, but it's not like I'm as good as like Jeff is with everything. Like a 5th year senior. So there's definitely going to be some learning, but I think it's pretty. I'm not struggling with like using my voice as much this year and trying to be more of a leader, just because I understand too that like there is like more responsibility and stuff, and that it's like a little bit easier. What's up, Will? Sorry, my roommate's in here. It's throwing me off a little bit. But what was I talking about? Yeah, I think it's not as hard to take that leadership role just because there is like a lot of younger guys on the team who like don't really understand, and it's not like coming from like a you did this wrong. It's like, okay, like that's the other thing that I love about Colgate basketball is there's never really like a wrong way of doing things. It's just like there's kind of like a preferred way almost. Like Coach Lango always talks about how you never really can make a mistake on offense. The only way you make a mistake is if you turn it over. So it's just kind of like showing them like how things are kind of meant to operate. And a lot of it feels like the way Colgate is run is like learning through your mistakes and learning through like what you did right and also what you did wrong and figuring out what makes you a good player and all these different things. Like it's kind of all interconnected. So there's kind of it's going to be exciting this year, but taking on a bigger role and being able to play like more of a significant role in the team. And I'm really looking forward to it and embracing it and excited for it and want to take on that challenge. So I'm just really excited for this new year because now I kind of know I had 1 year, I kind of know more of like what to expect, what it's going to look like traveling on the road and figuring out how I'm going to eat and when I'm going to go to class and all this other stuff and getting the schedule down. Like I have a lot more of that down.
We won't do it now, but it might be fun to jump on with you again and even just talk through your whole process, because that's what I work with athletes a lot of. What are you eating? What are you listening to? Who are you talking to? So I know you recently, I was connected to Tucker Richardson, who was the player of the year for the Patriot League twice, maybe even, and then went on to for Colgate, then went on to play in Finland. He's now in Brussels, and he's been WhatsApping you, sending you messages, right? And being he's a couple steps ahead of you, but how cool is that to have somebody giving you information and feedback of somebody who's done it?
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing too, because I mean, I've known about him just through like CJ playing at BU and playing against Colgate and stuff, and like he's kind of told me like Tucker is the guy, like that's the dude, and it's fun to like it's cool because I have kind of looked up to him as far as like what he's been able to do, and like kind of want to emulate that a little bit in my own way. So having someone like that is great. And we also had like an alumni weekend where a bunch of the other like people who used to play like came back, and getting to talk to them is great too. So he's been good as far as just trying to figure out like, because one of his things is like leading by example is what kind of has been explained to me. And I think sometimes I do struggle with like, I'm not really gonna like harp on someone. I think that taking that philosophy, like just leading by example and like trying to do the best you can do and playing as hard as you can, kind of stuff that we're talking about, is kind of what he was also preaching. So yeah, it's great to talk to someone who's had so much success in something that I'm trying to do.
I believe success leaves clues. And so when you get to talk to somebody who's has done what you want to do, take notes, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a reason he's getting to do what his dream was too. And there's a reason you're getting to do what, some of the kids in high school want to do because of some of these things we've been talking about. And that was really my goal in sharing that. And I do believe it'll be fun to listen to 10, 15 years from now, and you'll look back and go, oh, look how young I looked, and look what I had to say at nearly 21, in a week and a half, you're 21, and it's a beautiful time, right?
It's crazy.
So I want to end with one thing. So this summer we were very lucky to get you home for, I think, like 10 weeks. You got to play some golf. You mentioned you were rehabbing a knee, so you didn't get a ton of basketball, but what family memory do you have from this summer if you were to name one thing that was a highlight for you?
I think you know what I'm going to say. I think we both know. I mean, we played this game called BS, this card game that actually like some of my teammates out here, we started playing it in the summer and then brought it back, and we were in Hawaii, and I was like, you guys want to play a little card game called BS, which, can I be profane? Can I say curse
You
word?
Can.
It's called bullshit. So the whole name of the game is you got to put down, you have like cards and you go in ascending order. And I think some of my best memories were just, we spent a couple of nights just playing as a family. And it's a lot of fun to say that your mom's full of bullshit, or that your dad's bullshitting. Like you can just say that. I don't think you're really ever able to say that and get away with it outside of the game. But yeah, no, those are some of my, because you're also just joking around, and I really do appreciate my family a lot more now that it's kind of funny. Like I kind of talked about it when I went to Worcester. Like you kind of start to really appreciate all the little things that your mom does for you. Like I appreciate everything that you do for me, and that you don't even kind of realize or that go unnoticed, like just doing the laundry or making your bed or just like simple things like ordering you something that you're wanting, whereas like now you're kind of having to do all those things. It is pretty nice to have that person there. But I've just really grown to appreciate my family a lot more just being at college too, I will say. But no, the BS games were definitely top tier family experience for sure.
Well, I love that because, yes, we did get to do something fancy by going to Hawaii, which was a highlight. But I just think it's fun when I think back on what the highlight of the summer for me was that. It wasn't the expensive thing. It wasn't an item. It was making memories together and getting the time to be together and not have to be anywhere, but just get to be in the moment and enjoy that. And you've got to do your peanut butter voice.
Well, they don't know when you.
Well, so explain.
Well, when you lie and you get away with it, you can say like peanut butter or popcorn. So you just gotta hit them with whenever I would lie, peanut butter. You just gotta hit them with a little lie that you're lying. My mom.
But you got away with.
But I would tend to rub it in the faces of everyone at the game that I did lie and that I did get away with it. Which also made it a lot harder for me to lie because I was constantly doing it so that they would want to call it out. But I mean,
and it's ironic because I do think you are a horrible liar. I usually can tell, like when, I remember 5-year-old Parker trying to lie and I'm like, yeah, sorry, bud, that's not going to go. So it is funny to see you in that element because that's so not you.
Yeah, no, I am a very bad liar. But I kind of use that to my advantage where I'll I'm a very bad liar. I'll try and play a card and I'll try and act like I'll just pretend that it's not the right card. So I'll try and pretend like what I would act like when I'm lying, which is kind of a super strength I have in the game.
Well, I love you beyond. We're so proud of you. And this was so much fun. This is the highlight of my day. And thank you for sharing. And I think this is going to be super helpful to people. I hope it's inspiring to others. We're not doing it perfectly. We're still making mistakes. We're still figuring it out, right? But I think when you're willing to take a swing, when you're willing to make an error, when you're willing to say, oh, well, what's next? Then good things will come your way.
Totally agree. I mean, it's fun. Just last thing I'll say, looking back at it too, and I didn't even realize how many times I did have those downs. Like I totally had blocked out the France moment and I had forgotten about that, the first AAU game. So I think a lot of times when you're at that low point, it kind of can feel like this is like the end and this is all you can think about. But it's kind of funny too. Like you tend to block out those memories. So I think also thinking back to them and being appreciative of them and understanding that everyone goes through them is huge. But yeah, so glad I did this. I know it's a little, hopefully people got something out of this. I don't know. We'll see. But
100%. No, it's so, thank you for being so honest and forthcoming. Cause sometimes it's hard to, oh, I didn't do that well, or, oh, I had this low moment. And again, I think we all want to know that we're not alone in the journey, that we are not the only one experiencing this, and particularly with your generation and COVID, I think was really, really hard. And we can't relate to that. We didn't have that. So I can't say, oh, I remember that. No, I don't. I don't remember having to do school online for 2 years, or a year and a half. So I so admire you for your hard work and you're sticking to it. And again, showing up and keep doing the work and growing. And that to me is the game, as Opa liked to say, right? It is a journey and being willing to take a big swing, and sometimes you're going to fall on your face and sometimes you're going to get the triple or the in-park home run and then we reset and we get to do it again.
Yeah, totally.
All right. I love you. Parents, if you find this helpful, please like and share and comment. And yeah, we are learning and growing and trying to get better at what we do every day. So we've got this.
Woo!
Peace out.
Peace out, yo.
Hey, Raising Athletes podcast fans, Kirsten here, and I have to share my new favorite hydration secret with you. Corvives Hydrate in pink lemonade. If you're looking for the ultimate hydration boost, this is it. Corvives Hydrate is an NSF certified for sport, trusted by 4 Major League Baseball teams and 3 military bases. With 6 grams of pure organic cane sugar, it ensures you absorb all the electrolytes you need. And get this, it has 3 times the electrolytes and 4 times less sugar than those leading brands. Plus, it's developed using the World Health Organization's standards for oral rehydration solutions, making it the equivalent of a bag of IV fluids. Best of all, there are no artificial dyes or sweeteners. It's so perfect for the entire family. You can drink it any time of day, before, during, or after workouts or sports. So say goodbye to sugary juices and hello to superior hydration with Corvive's Hydrate in pink lemonade. Visit corvive.com. That's CORVIVE.com. And use promo code Kirsten. That's KIRSTEN for 30% off your order. Try it today and feel the difference.